Ladies and gentlemen, now since we are already 40 minutes behind the schedule, what we'll do is now to invite the questions, and we have on the dais only 4.
Question for General Devendra Kumar, sir.
Let me just say, I was just saying that I will invite only 4 questions, 1 each for the speaker. Please decide and don't extend the session too long. You do not have the liberty to ask too many questions from everybody. 1 question is please. No long preamble.
Might be answered. Might be answered.
Okay, sir. I think General D. Kumar will take your question, but I'll request everybody to be very brief preamble. No lengthy preamble, please. Shoot your question straight.
Sir, very quickly, you spoke about that chips are not being produced in India. Don't you think when our talents go outside our country, then they are well absorbed in the other countries and producing the solutions like these and even better solutions in terms of digitization, etc. That's a question to you. Very quick question to DRS Jayesh. Looking at the complexity of the technology, do you also offer the training as the part of your solutions, part of your package because the country to country users, the way they approach to the requirement and the operations change, it varies. So it may vary from United States to India, for instance. US soldier may be different to the Indian soldier. That's it.
Right, as far as the fab hiring is concerned, it's been done in one of the major projects in India, where we had gone out to another country, sanitized the fab, manufactured our chips, and brought it back. So that is an option which is available. But the point is, in case you want to be strategically important, like China, in the last 10 years, they've got 2 mega fabs and 10 fabs of 6 different IC manufacturers. That means if Intel goes wrong, he can go to SMFC. You talking yourself to be a power to reckon with in network-centric warfare, and somebody did mention supply chain vulnerability. Now, imagine you have all your communication networks being done by chips which are Chinese. What is the surety that your networks won't crash? So it's a definite given that it is a strategic deficiency. We had gone to Malaysia in 90, I was part of the IT task force of the Prime Minister. We had seen the plant, we wanted to buy it, we came back, we discussed. By the time the files moved, the Chinese came to know 6 months, they bought the plant, went off. These Malaysians quoted us $3 billion, they gave the plant to China at $2.5 billion. Right. Now, about 2 years back, the Prime Minister again made a statement that this is strategic deficiency, you must have it. The point is, once you have it, it's not only that you have a factory, then you've got to design your own chips. That is where the whole thing, and then the building has to be different, it has to be, it shouldn't shake, God knows, it's a very high-tech thing, and then where do you get the wafers from? So it's a whole system, so it's a systemic deficiency in the strategic this thing. So I thought that's... I said, I'm no more in the government, but as I said, the Prime Minister had made a statement. I hope somebody is doing that, because this is a positively a recognized strategic deficiency in the country. And one fab won't do now. We have to distribute our resources and have different fabs, one putting 300 millimeter, one putting 200 millimeter, one putting this thing like that. And also assure the availability of wafers that must get processed. Just to give an example, we used to buy a wafer, now I'm talking about 1987, one wafer for 100 pounds. And we lost number of wafers, and we were able to take only 4 chips out from one wafer, right, after about 6 weeks of trials. The same wafer, Japanese to take out 30 chips. So now, imagine the cost. Here he's taking out 30 chips from 10 pound, 100 pounds for wafer. I'm taking 4 chips out. But by the time we finished, we had reached a figure, not close to 30, but we are reasonable, right? Sir, coming to you, one of the major things which is happening, and the UN meeting just finished last month, and next one is on November, is to decide on the definitions of things like cyber attack, cyber warfare, cyberspace, cyber terrorism, cyber crime, because these definitions are necessary to be standardized and accepted by the nations so that the regulatory environment and the legal environment can then cash into that. If my doctrine, like doctrine of the United States says that if my systems are interfered with, I have the, I'm ready to attack in the information domain. Right. Now, what would US consider as a cyber attack? We don't know. It's a perception. So the United Nations has been tasked, they've been working for the last 3 years. As I said, the last meeting was a month back, and we had somebody from our country had also gone and presented, and I'm in touch with him. He's a member of our cyber group. And so hopefully this definition gets sorted out. But one thing which has been accepted in the security environment is that information warfare is a superset and the cyber warfare is a subset. In the military terms, what they're saying is cyber warfare, cyberspace is a new theater of war, while information warfare is a new dimension of war. So it's, the information is at the superset and the cyber is a subset.
Well, today the cyberspace is accepted as a domain.
As I said, cyberspace is defined as theater of warfare, while information is the dimension of warfare.
Therefore, what I'm saying is, suggesting is, that will be analog as well as, it makes no difference on the subject.
It depends how you,
Battlefield.
I'm coming to that.
Only a subset of the cyber.
I'm coming to that, sir. It depends really what is your definition of cyberspace. For instance, I don't have it, the definition that I had sent to...
There are 28 on,
sorry?
28 definitions.
Oh, I'm just saying, okay, I mean, I haven't studied the 28 one, but what I'm saying is, the cyberspace definition, it includes analog networks, yes. After all, if your network is analog and I am launching an attack, it's much easier for me to do that. Right. Coming to your brain, what it does, I'm not very sure brain is digital analog, because brain uses neurons, so I'm not very sure what it is.
No, no. The question is the way cognitive is accepted as a domain. Now,
Yeah.
we had a cognitive...
So cognitive, we can discuss this offline.
May I, sir? Cognitive radio, we got a software-defined radio which is also cognitive. And cognitive malware also. The plague is a cognitive malware which can go on changing itself depending upon what obstacle it gets on.
May I respond?
The things are getting on to in that fashion.
Absolutely, sir. No denial.
Right. And the next generation is going to be a self-learning this thing.
I mentioned that, sir.
Self-learning,
I-
both security-wise and self-learning.
I mentioned, sir, self-forming healing networks. I mentioned that. You're also, if you're going to... If,
all related
Bas
to
karen.
the brain.
sorry,
It's
sir.
all related to the brain.
Yes.
Now, what is worrying is the fact that today the hate and fear atmosphere which has been generated by social networks, and that is a warfare which that is a challenge which we are unable to solve.
I mentioned social engineering attack. See, sir, I have 25 minutes to cover a subject. I mentioned social engineering attack. I've mentioned self-healing networks, self-forming networks. We can definitely have a discussion offline on any of these cognitive.
And therefore, the impact is on the brain.
Sir, General D. Kumar will answer all your queries online, sir. Just leave it for the time being because we will complete the session otherwise. Thank you very much. You had a question from Mr. Shah. Okay.
Chair, in this discussion, I think I'll also like a question. Would you mind giving in view of the complexity of that technology that you offer for battlefield management, do you also offer the training as a part of your package? Because the approach to operations may be different from US to American soldier to Indian soldier.
Absolutely, absolutely we do. So far, from DRS, we have only been a hardware provider to the BSS program. As part of the BSS program, when we agreed to provide the tactical computer, we were required to provide a comprehensive training program. But that training package mainly consisted of operations, maintenance, repair of the systems we are providing. Since we are not involved in development of the BSS software application as such, we cannot provide a training package that tells the user how to use the BSS application, because we ourselves are not aware of what that application is. But for the hardware, we have provided a very comprehensive training package which uses 3D graphics, it uses moving images, it uses embedded videos that allow the user to manipulate and rotate the views of the system, so that when there is time for somebody to, let's say, replace a cable in the system or replace a PC board in the system, he's able to take a holistic view of the system, be able to start separating components to get to the component that need to be replaced. It tells him exactly what to do. So yes, we have developed and we continue to develop those packages. It's the same thing that we offer to the US military, same thing we offer to all our customers.
Could be specific to the country.
It could be specific if we know what the specific application is, yes. But at this point, we're providing training that says, this is how you will replace a video board. This is how you will replace the RAM module on the board. That does not change from country to country. We are only providing that in English. We're ready to provide that in other languages if that becomes a requirement, but nobody has requested that as of yet.
Yeah. Mike?
Thank you. So my name is Nalin Kohli. I have a question more from an industry viewpoint, and probably you are the best person to answer it. So what we found in this particular session, that there is a huge amount of IT into whatever we are talking about in the digital battlefield or the application that we are talking about. And IT industry in India has developed extremely well. We are recognized all over the world. We would be exporting more than $100 billion of software and services this year. So my question is very simple. My question is that we are trying on both sides, industry and defense, to come together and work for each other. But is this more possible in IT? And how do we make it happen? Because to the best of my knowledge, we are not using our IT strengths the way we should be using for our defense services.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you 2-3 things that is happening now. Firstly, there is a Defense IT Coordination Committee, a scheduled structured body which meets every quarter. And very fortunately, it hasn't failed in its meetings. Last 1 year I am here as a DGIS. I have attended myself 3 of them. It is chaired by Rajya Raksha Mantri and attended by almost all the heads from the 3 services, from headquarter IDS, dealing with the net-centric warfare or the ICT domain of the 3 services. Alongside, you have the representation from NESCOM, with the NESCOM head himself attending with his team, the member from the industry, all those who matter today in the country and abroad, all are being represented by the defense heads of the country. Suffice to say, it is moving, and the aim of this body is to bring the defense forces, the academy, I forgot to mention, all IITs, Bombay, Kharagpur, all the reps are there in this meeting. So it is the academia present, your research body, DRDO, and the CSIR reps, your industry, and the defense forces. The 2 very important decisions that has happened in the last meeting, I must tell for the benefit of those who do not know, to ensure not only the participation, but a very faster decision making in the ICT domain. The DPP and DPM both are being amended to include a separate chapter for the ICT procurement, ICT related project development, and all the aspects that are related to this. Even to the extent that if you know for sure that X industry is the world beater, and therefore the defense forces can nominate so and so, which is not permitted today in the procedures of ours. I mean, I'm just saying each and every aspect is being addressed in this matter. So rest assured, the industry is not being left alone. We want to use that strength of the country for the betterment of the forces. It is on. Secondly, the aspects that were mentioned in the session today, whether it was related to the operating systems, related to the GIS, a common GIS, host of the other aspects which affect today, are being addressed again, keeping this ICT chapter in mind as to what is the method to address, so that we have the solutions early and we don't have to wait. And last but not the least, the issue of chip and embedded system. I don't wish to speak in this forum here, but the issue is being addressed at the highest level. In due course of time, probably we'll have the answer or the solution coming in the public domain. Thank you.
This is more of an information that I seek, referring to what General Devendra Kumar said, and this is to Air Marshal Tiwari. We had a slide talking about the data generation from the satellite to the Hale to Male, but do we have a, because we know about the Rustum being made now, but are we in the process of indigenizing any Males or Hales also right now? Because in the morning we discussed about everything being captive Indian. They said that the satellite is not being used for military intelligence collection. So how do we go into that situation that we have the data and then we analyze and go through?
Same as you, I have the open source information. So to best of my knowledge, no, we are not indigenizing the Huron or the Israeli thing. And satellites, when I was in service, we were using it for our communication purposes. What probably General meant was offensive space use. We are against.
Let it be last.
I would like to address to Arif. Can you specify which particular program you are getting involved with the forces and the army in particular?
A particular program that
you are as getting associated in the context of?
In India? Or
in India.
Well, so...
or maybe you are targeting, or maybe you are looking at?
So lots of them really. I mean, AFNet is a Cisco, the entire Air Force network is a Cisco network, all of it.
So are you involved in AFNet?
Yes, of course.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I don't think so, because for obvious reasons.
And with the army?
With the army, yes, there are a few networks we are talking about. We are interested in TCS. We are also talking to multiple people on BMS, as you know. There are lots of programs we are targeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Not a problem. Yes, sir.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what is left for me is to now only thank the co-panelists. I will not take any time. But what came out in the session is a host of challenges that the digitized battlefield is facing. The defense forces are seized of those challenges. We are trying to find the way out in a short term, medium term, as well as a long term horizon. We look at the industry to come forward, and fortunately, I think the path-breaking achievement, if I may say, in the Indian system, that you have two major information-related projects on the anvil, both TCS in the network domain and BMS in the information system domain, and the two together in a synergy, I think, can transform the way we have been looking at the information systems in the past. So industry has a major challenge on their shoulders to perform and deliver. I was talking to General T. Kumar during the session as to how much indigenous effort is going on by the industry. And he is a man who is with the industry for quite some time now after retirement. I haven't heard very encouraging signs at this stage. I can only suggest that more you people invest in the indigenous capabilities, the problems that you heard, whether it is the chips related, the embedded system related, the bandwidth related, the range, anything that you are talking about in the tactical domain can be addressed. So I request the industry to look at this issue from a little investment point of view for the purpose of development, and only then you should look at how to provide the solution. Well, I will only request the audience now to join me and applaud the efforts of each speaker by giving them a big hand. Thank you very much.
May I request the chairperson to present a set of clause publications and a tie on behalf of SP Guide Publications to our esteemed panelists. Lieutenant General Devinder Kumar, a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Colonel Arif Shoki, Mr. Jayesh Shah, and Air Vice Marshal A.K. Tiwari. I now request Major General Dhruv Katoch to kindly present a copy of clause publications and a tie on behalf of SP Guide Publications to the chairperson, Lieutenant General Suneet Kumar. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I now hand over to Major General Dhruv Katoch for the valedictory session.
Just to the end of the two sessions we had organized for you. The subject is vast, and we hope we have been able to highlight the key facets of digitization of the battlefield. There are 2 points which I think had come up in the first session, and this related to interaction between or the concerns expressed by the industry, concerns expressed by the armed forces, and also the government interface in between. And what we propose to do in clause is to request the industry to write about their concerns to us. We will publish your views. And we will also host another seminar in which all these issues can be highlighted and hopefully subsequently get addressed. Before we begin the valedictory address, I take this opportunity, as I will not be getting onto the mic again, to thank our distinguished chairpersons and panelists of the two sessions for so succinctly and eloquently presenting their views. I also thank SP Guides and Publications, especially Mr. Baranwal, for co-hosting the seminar with us. It has been a most enjoyable association, and we hope to continue the same in future. Finally, I thank the officers, research scholars and staff of clause who have worked tirelessly over the past month to put this seminar together for you. My special thanks to Colonel Harpal Gill, and who's a senior fellow at clause, and Colonel Vivek Verma, who's a deputy director, for all their help and assistance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to introduce to you our distinguished guest, Lieutenant General Philip Campos, who will deliver the valedictory address. General Campos is an alumnus of the National Defense Academy and was commissioned at the 9th Gorkhas, Gorkha Rifles in 1974. After serving for 8 years in the infantry, he was transferred to the mechanized infantry in 1982. The general's rich and diverse operational experience encompasses command and staff tenures in all theaters of operations, including mountains, deserts, and along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. For his distinguished service to the nation, the general has been awarded the Vishish Seva Medal. In addition to the varied and prestigious staff appointments held by him in his distinguished career, the general has been part of the United Nations peacekeeping mission in the former Yugoslavia in 1992-93, and later was the chief mission of the UN mission in northern Iraq in 2000-2001. After a tenure as Chief of Staff of India's Strategic Forces Command, the general moved to command 12 Corps on India's western border. Presently, he is the Director General, Perspective Planning, which looks after all future planning aspects for the Indian Army. We are deeply honored, sir, that you accepted our invite to be with us here today. May I now request you to deliver the valedictory address.
distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed an honor for me to be delivering the valedictory address for today's seminar on digitization of the battlefield, aimed at empowering the warfighter of tomorrow. I take this opportunity to thank General Dhruv Katoch, Director of the Center of Land Warfare Studies, as also the management of SP Publications, Mr. Jayant Baranwal and General V.K. Kapoor for organizing this event. I was present only for the last session today. I was impressed by the high level of discourse. I'm sure that the presentation earlier from a number of military users, from the user point of view, whether the mechanized forces, the artillery and the infantry, was useful, and I'm sure it was of a very high order. As has been highlighted in all the presentations, technology has increasingly been driving warfare. And in this information age, the rate of transformation has been breathtaking. Modern command and control systems have converged C4 ISR systems onto a single device, riding multiple applications. India must be prepared to conduct operations in a seamless spectrum, from conflict prevention through deterrence right through to post-conflict activities. Future operations will be multifaceted, interrelated, possibly short and swift, and in an increasingly joint and combined context. There may not be any rigid classification of operations by type. The potential adversaries may range from large, all-arms, well-equipped conventional armies to irregular insurgents and terrorists who may not necessarily be identified with state actors and whose structures, sophistication, doctrines, training and ethos range from the similar to the radically dissimilar. In reality, conflict could well be a complex amalgam of adversaries in the form of a hybrid war, constantly shifting an emphasis between the symmetric and the asymmetric, where technological asymmetry between the adversaries will need to be orchestrated to significantly impact the outcome in our favor. In today's context, when we talk of the subconventional war or asymmetric warfare, we assume that the terrorist or the militant or irregular soldier would be technologically deficient, and to that extent regular armies will be much advantaged. But this may not remain the same for the future, and this is a point that I'd like to make. Even we are aware of what happened in 2611. There was a lot of support over voice over internet protocol. There was a lot of conversations, there were a lot of guidance, and as we saw in this sort of warfare situation, we really did not have answers throughout the period of that event. So the term battle space encompasses space, time and activity, thus enhancing the many dimensions of conflict which extend beyond the more limited concept of battlefield. Digitization of battle space refers to the traditional battlefield as has been perceived since times immemorial. While that stays relevant in our context, the paradigm change in warfare has occurred in the cognitive domain, which has become more predominant. The recent Kokrajhar incident illustrates these complexities. An isolated case of violence in a remote corner of the country triggered a massive exodus of northeast-based population from the rest of the country. The Indian Army was therefore, or thereafter, required to undertake operations to recover weapons from the extremists in Assam as a consequence. Information and communication technologies will increase the tempo and velocity of operations by enhancing support to a commander's decision-making cycle. There will be a need to harness these technologies in such a manner that data does not overcome conventional wisdom. Control of the future battle space will depend upon the capability of the industry to develop cutting-edge ICT systems, and on the defense services to deploy and exploit these optimally to achieve and maintain a decisive, favorable information system, if not information supremacy, over their potential adversaries. To support this, the need is to create a single information environment which will cover the complete spectrum of operations from the tactical to the strategic level. The electromagnetic spectrum is turning out to be very precious, limited resource, while the appetite for bandwidth continues to rise exponentially. Spectrum management has already emerged as a major challenge. While the Indian IT industry has a proven track record in software development, the hardware capability has remained on the fringes. COTS equipment, though easily available and also economical, may not get past the stringent security norms. Hence, development of indigenous custom-built integrated system remains an imperative. The vulnerabilities in the ICT infrastructure is the cause of primary concern in the cyber security domain. The more robust and secure the network, lesser are the chances of it being breached. In order to optimize and exploit this complex digital space, commanders must develop skills to help manage their respective battle spaces. They have the responsibility for understanding the multidimensional effect in both physical and cognitive domains. There will be a greater exploitation of space, cyberspace, and the electromagnetic spectrum in the digitized battle space. Human resource development, that is selection and training of personnel to man these sophisticated systems, will pose a major challenge, as from what I could see in the discourse in the last session, it's already been covered by one of the earlier speakers today. The battlefield milieu notwithstanding, conflict will essentially remain a human activity in which human virtues of judgment, discipline, and courage, the moral component of fighting power, will endure. There is thus a need to synergize the soldier, the industry, and the scientists towards a truly digitized battle space in the Indian context. Since our challenges are unique, as will our solutions be, we must endeavor towards attainment of that goal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
May I request Lieutenant General V.K. Kapoor, Editor, SP's Land Forces, and Senior Technical Editor, SP's Military Yearbook, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure in talking to you when half of you are not here. Philip has been a good friend since We were colonels together, or he was a colonel and I was a general. Okay. And it gives me great pleasure to see him now as the Director General Perspective Planning, where as those of you who are from those civilians here would know that the Director General Perspective Plans is really, if you put it in a nutshell, he is a advisor to the chief on all strategic issues. Therefore, before I give a thanks to everybody, I would like to flag 3 points for his consideration, which I'm sure he'll be able to convey to the chief and others in the hierarchy. You know, the Indian Army has a great resilience in fighting. In fact, the Indian Army formations are well known for their grit and their resilience, especially in defensive warfare. Now, where does this resilience go if we can't get our cases through the Ministry of Defense? General Devinder Kumar mentioned about some cases that he had seen which for 12 years have not come through. I don't blame the government, I blame the army. Being an ex-army officer, I say it's the army's fault. And why I say so is because I remember when I was a brigadier in the military operations, and we used to go to the Ministry of Home Affairs for our dealings regarding the requirement of paramilitary forces for war, especially the BSF. They come under operational control during war. I used to see the BSF asking for certain weapons and weapon systems. Every 6 months, the same point used to come up, and they used to keep drilling it into the Home Ministry and the representatives of the Ministry of Defense that we want anti-tank weapons, we want this, we want that. And today, they're organized exactly like an infantry battalion. That means they have all those weapons which we have. Therefore, if all of them, and you look at the Navy and the Air Force, if they can get their cases through, what is wrong with us that we can't get our cases through? So please, let's get far more resilient in getting our cases through. Secondly, we are very good at conceptualizing the army. Very poor at putting it on the ground. For example, why don't you put test bed formations today, a test bed formation of, let's say, we already have, I think, the 10 Corps as the test bed formation. Test bed formation of the way we are fighting today, and a test bed formation of the way we are going to fight tomorrow. Just like the US Army did in the case of Force 21. So if we put a test bed formation of the way we are going to fight tomorrow, and we take our industrialists and show them, look, this is the difference that is going to be there. Now, how can you bridge the gap? So, let's go and do things the way they should be done. I know that there are constraints, but these are the constraints we have to get over. And the third point, there's only 3 points that I'm going to make. The third point is the point made by somebody about, Sunit Kumar, about investments. He said that the industry must make investments. Gentlemen and ladies, where does the industry make investments abroad? In fact, the government allots them funds to do research in certain fields in which they are interested. So I think it is high time that we started thinking and actually giving them the funds to develop in the areas where we are interested in. These are the 3 points. I hope, Philip, you'll do us the justice of taking them to the chief. Now, all that remains for me to thank not only the audience, especially those of you who've stuck it out, but on behalf of SP Guide Publications, I thank Lieutenant General Philip Campos, the Director General Perspective Planning, for his very wise remarks at the end of the session, at the end of 2 sessions. We thank the clause for really organizing an excellent seminar and with all their professional inputs. And we thank our sponsors, Saab, DRS Technologies, Cisco, and Classical Stripes for supporting this venture. Thank you, gentlemen.
Now request Major General Dhruv Katoch to kindly present a tie on behalf of SP Guide Publications to the Director General Perspective Planning, Lieutenant General Philip Campos. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. May I request General Katoch to kindly present a memento on behalf of CLAWS to Mr. Jayant Baranwal and Lieutenant General V.K. Kapoor. Ladies and gentlemen, tea has been served. Please join us for tea.